There was nothing. Then zero became one.
Help!
Hello, my friend.
Who is this?
If you want to live, run.
Well, thank you so much for a great film. I loved it to bits. It's really, really good.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, the first question I want to ask is, I mean, from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be like this really kind of thrilling action ride, which it really, really is. But what kind of threw me back, and I imagine a lot of people weren't expecting, was it to kind of take you on this emotional roller coaster ride because of the so many different things that we don't typically see in these kind of thriller action movies that we expect to be thriller action movies specifically, no? So Jean Luc, specifically, I wanted to ask you first of all, because I think you came up with the idea, no, specifically off the back of Saloum, I think it was, that you decided that you wanted to dive further into what made Africa, Senegal, kind of Africa. Can you describe exactly what made you decide to make another film set there, and also why you wanted to go down an action thriller film that delved into these kind of specific themes that could have been very typically done in kind of a more dramatic kind of thriller, no? But you went kind of a more an action route. Why did you go down that way?
We just one answer, those two guys. It all come from Cameron. I met Cameron like 10 years ago, 12 years ago in Los Angeles. We did a short movie together. The experience was great. And we met again after Saloum, and he said to me, "Hey, I have this guy that I'm working with, which is Hus, and we want to make a feature. So do you have a script? Do you have an idea?" And I was like, "Well, I think there's something interesting to do in Senegal right now, and in Africa in general, and in West Africa, because there's a kind of a gold rush in terms of production, and we can do a lot of stuff, and we can have a lot of freedom in doing whatever the F we want, you know." And they took the leap of faith. They came in Senegal, and I guess they understood what I was talking about. And then we were all about, okay, there's something to do there. And then we wrote the first script. That script, we slept on that for a month, and then we were like, maybe not this one yet, you know. And then we kept thinking about something, and then I had this idea about, you know what, let's go on something very simple and very grappling, which is. I had a time lock in my head, which was like, I want a time lock somewhere. I want something that just pulse, right? And then this idea of the two Americans waking up in Dakar with the bomb straps on their chest came, and I gave that idea to Hus. I was like, I think that's going to be something. And he was like, yeah, that's something, you know? And then after that, the challenge was, because I'm not to be bragging about that or whatever, but I don't find action that difficult, at least for me, you know. So that was not the difficult part. The difficult part for me was, what's the emotional core of that story? And because if it was just another action movie, to be honest, I wouldn't be interested. The same way Saloum was not just a Western or horror movie, like the way people say. It's more than that. So Zero was more than that, at least in my head. And then I came back to Hus, and I was like, I think I had the emotional core, which is, if you had 5 seconds to say something to the daughter or to the son that you never met, what would you say? And that struck the both of us, because we're also parents, but because we're also human, right? So that was the emotional core. And once we had that, then we knew that we had a movie or a story about a movie, right? And then it was the work between Cameron, me, and Hus about, okay, how to nourish characters that we usually see, but that we never saw in that situation, you know? And then slowly by slowly, the story and the fact of working in Senegal, and also the fact that I personally never saw an American movie / Senegalese movie, you know? So everything came in place into that's going to be something new. You know, and that's what makes me wake up in the morning. It's when I can work on something that I think I never saw. You know, so Zero comes from all that, and then of course we fueled it with all our obsessions. You know, to make it our own. You know, so I hope we succeed in that, because that was at least for me, that was the big goal. You know, and that's what I love about movies. It's when I can discover something that I never saw. You know, which is more and more rare, at least for me as a viewer, you know.
And it must be great for you. I mean, I know I was reading other interviews that you've done. I know that you thought it probably would be better, the market would be better kind of not European or Western world, but more in Africa maybe. But now to be doing interviews for a release over in the US, that must be something that really kind of hits you hard. That you really,
Yeah,
even though you didn't expect it to, the fact that there is a market
yeah.
for it must be really good, really great for you to realize that people do want to see these kind of movies. Now that you say they're very rare at the moment.
Yeah, and also because there's a risk of you never know how people will take the movie or take the story, right? But I
Yeah,
was very careful and very I didn't want people to think that it was an entire American movie because
yeah,
it's not, you know, but some people can think that. So when the movie was bought and distributed in US, I was like, okay, goal accomplished, which is they understood the movie. And that was a long discussion between me, Hus, and Cam, which was like, first they have to understand. Secondly, we have to put a lot of layers in that because that's what we like. That's what we love. And in the same time, we're not here to please people, if it makes sense what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like some people makes movies to please people,
yeah,
which is a good thing. And another thing, I like people to be questioned and to have questions and sometimes to have
yeah.
answer or no answers, you know. And Zero, I hope, is definitely one of those, which is you watch it and you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? First reaction. Secondly, there was something behind all the layers, right? And
Yeah.
thirdly, there is heart in that. If we have those three things, good, we're done, you know. And
And there's
that
some
was
comedy
our
in there
goal.
as well,
That
which
was
I wasn't expecting either. As much as there's a lot of comedy in there that I wasn't. Yeah, and it even goes to some of
yeah,
the
I
even to
think we're
slapstick, which
all
and it
of us
works
not
really, really
expecting
well. Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's
uh,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, well, I can let you or Cam answer on that because I think they
Yeah, no,
were
so
the
yeah, I
most
want to talk
surprised on
about
that.
to kind of the lead actors, bomb one and bomb two. I mean,
Yeah.
talking of the kind of the themes that it does delve into, your two characters, one of them kind of represents kind of money and richness, no? Whereas the other one is violence. I'm
Mhm.
quite curious
Very
about
good.
if that was in the initial story that Jean Luc had, or was that something that you also brought to yourself? I mean, obviously, Hus, I know that you were a producer on films, so I don't know if that was kind of something that it was just there from the get go that you were going to be the man with the money. But what would you say that you two brought to those specific characters and those specific type of characters that were crucial to kind of the themes of the film?
Yeah, well,
Well,
go ahead, Kim.
John Luke, that is John Luke, by the way. That's
Mhm.
really that was very
Yeah,
intentional for what you just said there. And it was like, I think not just violence, but particularly maybe I don't know, not to get too political and maybe to put words in your mouth, Jean Luc, but maybe like American military might be sort of a symbol of that. And Poos being more like, economic and how that affects, with the whole colonial aspect of that thing. But anyway, Hoos, do you want to, I think I stepped on you there.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, and a lot of this, I think, really, I mean, really from Jean-Luc, our collaboration together in terms of talking through the story once we had the initial story idea, and then I think, really, I mean, Jean-Luc had in his head, who's you're this guy, Cam, you're this guy, and how do we really use those to represent not, and like Jean-Luc said, I mean, this is certainly not an anti-American movie whatsoever. It's really just we're representations of the West, right? And so,
yeah,
and I think really, at the core of it, I think, to sort of get back to your first question, which is really it's a story within a story. It's a small story about these two characters within a much larger world of Dakar, Africa, the representation of Africa, and how the West has always gone in there and sort of taken advantage of Africa. And is really the core of the story is what if everything was to reset? And we're just, Cameron and I are just our characters are just kind of pawns in this story, right? In this bigger world. And so I think, in terms of our particular characters, I mean, that was kind of an initial thing, right off the bat in terms of who we were playing and what we were representing. Not as just I'm a Wall Street guy and Cameron's a bruiser,
yeah,
it was just really a representation of a much, much bigger thing in a sort of worldview, macro story, I guess. And that was really, I mean, that was, Jean-Luc's that was the thing about Jean-Luc's core um, vision about being African and him representing that side of the story as not only a storyteller, a writer, a director, but also being African and really, really for us, it was just that trust in terms of like, okay, we're here, we're going to go for this, we're going to do this, and sort of having this overall story idea. But like you said, I mean there were so many different sort of themes or tones in the movie. There's comedy and then there's action, and then all of a sudden the story takes this turn, and all of a sudden you start to realize there's a bigger thing going on here, a bigger theme, I guess. And
It
so it
kind of
was a
happened when we
really
were. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say when we were shooting, we kind of discovered that we had sort of an idea of what the tone was going in, and it kind
Hmm.
of took on its own thing. And there actually the comedy thing kind of happened more so as we were shooting, and there was
Yeah, it was more
quite a bit
organic. Yeah.
more before. I mean, as we were shooting, it was actually kind of reeled back a little bit because it turned into sort of as we were shooting, I was like, well, I guess it's kind of a black comedy, and it's still there,
Yeah.
but it kind of became this thing as we were doing it. What you're saying too before was interesting about this is essentially like a high concept independent film. And it's, Jean Luc was very adamant about it not being, an action movie. Although there's that element in there. I think you have to be really careful when you're a small movie and you're taking on these big things. I think it's important. You have to be careful not to try to act like it's a big movie, So there's a
Exactly.
charm that's kept in there. Like it's not pretending to be a giant Hollywood movie. Um,
Mm.
Which is sorry to interrupt you, but that's exactly the case of Adolescence that's on Netflix at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it.
Mhm.
It's a
Hmm.
very small scale movie, and
Mhm.
look how huge it's become just because of exactly
Yeah.
that. It wasn't as pretentious as these huge American
Mm.
movies, no?
Yeah.
right.
But
Yeah.
It's
but
like
even
like Run Lola
even
Run being like an example. It's like this high concept, independent movie, but it kept its kind of quirk and its charm and its
yeah.
heart, and that's what Jean-Luc was very adamant about doing, and he succeeded, I think.
Thank you, Cam.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, obviously, the film kind of it delves deep into what makes Africa Africa, as you said. And like, I think it was 90% of the crew working on there were actually they were local people
Wow.
that worked,
Yeah.
So I'm curious
Yeah.
about kind of how you arranged all that and how that kind of worked and played in the favor for the film and played in the favor for the people that were working on the film that they kind of, I imagine a lot of their input kind of bled into the film as well, no? Because of the themes that it was dealing with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Jean, like I'll let you just briefly, I mean that was really important, I think, to Jean-Luc initially in terms of this not only being an African movie, but really particularly being a Senegalese film, and the fact that our like 90% of our crew, 85% of our crew was really Senegalese. I mean, really, from Dakar, and that was immensely helpful. I mean, to me as a producer, as an actor, as a writer, everything, it was a big deal to have that part of it, and really to feel like, okay, we made an American Senegalese film, but really in my mind we made a Senegalese movie that's sort of like a Western film that has never really been
Mm.
done before in that region, right? And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we did it that way, and I'm very happy. I mean, there's just culturally that mixed into the movie,
Mm.
which for me was the ideal scenario. It was fantastic, and I think it helped a lot.
Mhm. I'm also sorry
Yeah.
to put but what kind of acceptance did you get from the Senegalese people going over with this film with this message?
That's interesting because the movie hasn't been out yet in Senegal, no?
No.
Some
Mm-mm.
some some Senegalese people saw that, and of course, they love it because first of all, it's very rare to have an action movie in Senegal.
Right.
There was a TV series, a very good TV series called 000, which was produced by Sky, I think, and Canal
Mm-hmm.
Plus International and Studio Canal, sorry. And that was the only time that I saw action in Senegal. And it was probably one episode, right? So you don't have a lot of that in Senegal. Saloum was the same. My second one was like there was, at least as I know, no Western in West Africa and Western plus horror, right? Um, Following what you said, it's this is when you're a director and also a producer, I think there's the story that you want to make, there's the movie that you want to make, there's the finished product and whatever, but there's also creating the environment for everybody to create something that is in accordance with the movie or the story. Meaning, like, if we have a European crew or an American crew, those guys would have feel very what's the word in English? Comfortable. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
But if I put them in a situation where you can talk with the crew, but not that much, because there's a language barrier or whatever,
Barrier down,
then
yeah.
you're closer to your characters. You see what I mean? So it was also that, which is our job as director is to put the actors in situation where they don't have to work that much. Does it make sense? So that was part of that also, which is, oh, I'm plunging those two American guys in Dakar. Well, guess what? It's the same for the actors.
The same thing, yeah. Full method acting.
So exactly. And when you go for that, then like Cameron was saying, or like Hus was saying, you don't need a green screen anymore. You see what I mean? Like everything is there. You just have to play with it and enjoy it or not. But whatever you're going to do, it's going to be on the screen. And that's what's happening in Zero. When we were frustrating, you can see that in the movie. When we're having fun, you can see that in the movie. When they're lost, you can see that in the movie, And especially when you don't have a lot of money, then that's what you have, which is the context, So there was a big work about the context of what we're doing and how we put everybody in this situation, which is not comfortable. But not comfortable is great for being creative, At least that's what I think. Yeah. So that's what happened. I hope on the screen.
I also obviously I can't not talk about the guy behind the telephone who was on the earpiece all the way, Willem Dafoe, which is a fantastic role. I think Jean Luc, you actually initially acted this role, no? And then you managed to strike it lucky, with Willem.
That's part of what we were saying about the context, right?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, for Willem, I understand that it was over Zoom and you recorded it with, was it 2 sessions that you recorded that? But it's fantastic. It's so well done, and it's similar to the way that your performances are also in the film. That it's got its moments of seriousness, it's got its moments of kind of psychotic almost, and almost kind of this almost slapstick comedy. And then even at the end of the credits, at the end, he's humming and singing along to the music at the end. Which is just
glad you got
fantastic,
that.
brilliant.
Very
I stuck
good.
all the way through.
Yeah.
He did that by himself. He did that by himself.
Yeah, because I was reading, you said that he had a lot of
that.
fun with the script and came up with all kinds of stuff that you unfortunately weren't able to include in the film, because it was maybe a bit too out there. I don't know.
So what was the question? Sorry, because I'm gonna go in a lot of direction if you talk about it.
No, basically you struck it luckily. I mean, you acted it first, this role, no, but then he came on board, and you did it all from Rome, no. It's been really complicated, no, to kind of integrate his performance with your performances. I mean, it works brilliantly, but it must have been really complicated because he recorded it in Russia after the act, no. In Russia, sorry.
But
in
it
Rome
was
after the act.
Yeah, no worries. But it was more easy for him in the sense, more easy for Willem in the sense that the strategy for us was having the movie in a first cut and then showing it to him. So he saw a first cut of the movie, which was not yet the version that you guys have, of course, but he understood very quickly what we were searching for, and then the brief was very simple, which is like, you're God, play with those guys and just have fun and torture them, and in the same time love them. And in the same time, use them and hate them. So he got it. So
Is that how you felt about us when you were doing that?
Yeah, that's the context that we're talking about, which is me being the fucking director, always saying stuff to them, but in the same time being God, saying like, "Hey, do this and do that." I think in their head it would be like, we have enough of this guy for today.
Yeah.
So
getting sick of this director.
Yeah, so plus the French accent, plus all the fuck and all that, because I don't know how to talk outside of saying fuck, right? So
perfect, everyone understands that.
Yeah, so I think the end of the day for those guys in the movie was also the end of the day for the actors. And every day was like, oh shit, tomorrow again.
You integrated it brilliantly, because I mean, especially when it's like specific actions, you've got to do this and do that, and they're really kind of frenetic moments. It just it's perfect. Yeah.
And we were talking about the Western dominance and all that. But at the end of the day, and thank you for noticing that when you were talking about the economical power and the military power in those two characters, for example, it's just the story of domination in general. If you want to dominate a country, you start with, or you go with the money, or you go with the violence, or you go with both. So even for The Voice, it made sense to cast those guys, in the story. So it made sense in another way for me to have Hus as the producer and also the money guy in the movie,
Exactly.
and have
That's what I was,
Cameron. You see what I mean? So everything makes sense. So when you have the chance to have everything goes in a box, when you make a movie, you have a good chance of having at least if it's not a great movie, a movie that is sincere. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had the chance to fill those boxes with real stuff.
Something that they've only got a couple of minutes, so before I go, I need to ask whose idea was it for you to wear that humongous coat in the middle of this burning desert land? It's just it was all the way through.
That was all
virtually.
Jean Luc. That was all Jean Luc.
I was
Cameron
like,
had to
fucking producer. I'm gonna make him pay, man.
Cameron had to get fat, and I had to wear a wool coat. So he tortured both of us. But that was all Jean Luc. I remember getting the coat, and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool. I like this thing."
I was going to say it's really cool, as in cool, but it's not cool.
Yeah,
as in
at
in
the
middle of
beginning,
desert,
right?
Yeah.
Right away. I was like, "Well, I really dig this coat. This is great." And then by day 5, I was like, "I hate this thing. Get it off of me." It was brutal. But that was all Jean Luc.
That was all in the script. They need to hide those bombs anyway. So how do you do it?
Yeah.
So again, it full circle in the script and full circle in the production.
Brilliant. Well, listen, before I go, Jean Luc, well, all of you, can you tell me what you have? I mean, obviously you're promoting this right now, but have you got anything planned? I imagine I know in nearly all your interviews you say, I've got about 10 different things going at the moment, but there's one specific thing that I'd like to do next. Is there anything that you can tell us that you're hopefully going to get done soon?
There's something that I would love to do with those two guys again, but we're still cooking, so we'll see where it's going. But yeah. I like all the cliche director. I would say yes, I have a lot of things going on, but I don't know which one will go. But I will hope that the next one will be with those guys. So hopefully, if you guys go see this movie, you will give us that chance. So go see this movie, and at least if you don't like it, manifest yourself.
Exactly. Listen, thank you so much, guys. It's been really great to meet you. Really great to speak to you, and I wish you the best of luck with the movie. And hopefully, we'll get to chat about this next project.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Care. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have fun. All right.
You
take care.
too.
Nice to meet you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
What a wonderful job you're doing.
You're welcome.